My dear students, we are going to see the topic on the Jewish question. Now let us see the contents, objectives, summary, introduction, Jewish questions, the Jewish question of Bruno Bauer, the history of the Jewish question, the Nazis' final solution, historical context and influences on the Jewish question of Karl Marx, synopsis of content. Now let us see the topics addressed in Karl Marx's essay on the Jewish question include in-depth analysis of Marx's essay by examining its historical context and key arguments and the significance in shaping subsequent debates on the Jewish question, challenges to the Jewish question by on the Jewish question, the impact of on the Jewish question on the society and Jews. Now let us see the objectives. In this unit, we deal with on the Jewish question of Karl Marx to then current debates over the Jewish question. Here we explain what on the Jewish question is and the Jewish question and its main themes and its impact. By the end of the course, you should be able to understand the Jewish question. Secondly, understand on the Jewish question and its main themes. Thirdly, understand its impact on the society and the Jews. The phrase on the Jewish question refers to an essay written by Karl Marx in 1843. In this essay, Karl Marx delves into question of Jewish emancipation and explores broader issues related to religion, politics, and the struggle for human rights. Despite its relatively short length, the essay has had a profound impact on discussion surrounding Jewish identity and anti-Semitism and the role of religion in society. It is a significant essay that reflects the critical analysis of the relationship between religion, politics, and society. In this essay, he examines in the Jewish question, which refers to the status and rights of Jews in European society during the 19th century, the Jewish question. The Jewish question, also referred to as the Jewish problem, was a wide-ranging in 19th and 20th century European society that pertained to the appropriate status and treatment of Jews. The debate, which was similar to other national questions, dealt with the civil, legal, national and political status of Jews as a minority within the society, particularly in Europe during the 18th, 19th and 20th centuries. The debate began with the Jewish emancipation in Western and Central European societies during the Age of Enlightenment, and after the French Revolution, the debate's issues included the legal and economic Jewish disabilities such as Jewish courts and segregation, Jewish assimilation and Jewish enlightenment. This expression has been used by anti-Semitic movements from 1880s onwards, culminating in the Nazi phrase of the final solution to the Jewish question. Similarly, the expression was used by the proponents for opponents of the establishment of an autonomous Jewish homeland or a sovereign Jewish state. There is a book published by German historian and theologian Bruno Bauer, published in German. The original title is Die Judenfrage. It was named as a Jewish question, the Jewish question of Bruno Bauer. In his book, The Jewish Questions, 1843, Bruno argued that Jews could only achieve political emancipation if they relinquished their particular religious consciousness. He believed that political emancipation requires a secular state, and such a state did not leave any space for social identities such as a religion. According to Bruno, such a religious demands were incompatible with an idea of the rights of man. True political emancipation for Bruno required the abolition of religion. He described the contemporary concept of Jewish nationalism as a chimerical and baseless. The history of the Jewish question. The term Jewish question was first used in Great Britain around 1750, when the expression was used during the debates related to the Jewish Naturalization Act 1753. According to Holocaust scholar Lucidi, The term Jewish question, as introduced in Western Europe, was a neutral expression for negative attitude towards the apparent and persistent singularity of the Jews as a people against the background of the rising political nationalism and new nation states. Lucidi writes that the histories of Jewish emancipation and of emancipation, anti-Semitism are replete with offered solution to the Jewish questions. The question was next discussed in France after the French Revolution in 1789. It was discussed in Germany in 1843 via Bruno treatise Die Judenfrage, the Jewish question. He argued that Jews could achieve political emancipation only if they let go their political proposed. That political emancipation required a secular state. Bruno conclusions were disputed by Karl Marx in his essay Zur Judenfrage, in which he argued that a complete emancipation cannot happen with an economic emancipation from inequalities. In 1898, Theodor Herzl's treatise Die Judenstaat advocates Zionism as a modern solution for the Jewish question by creating an independent Jewish state, preferably in Ottoman-controlled Palestine. According to Otto Dicke of Hebrew University, the term became widespread in the 19th century when it was used in discussions about Jewish Judenfrage. In the 19th century, pamphlets, newspapers, articles and books were written on the subject, with many offering with the solutions as a resettlement of the Jewish population. Similarly, hundreds of works were written opposing these solutions and offering instead solutions such as reintegration and education. This debate, however, could not decide whether the problem of the Jewish questions had more to do with the problems posed by the German Jews opponents or vice versa. The problem posed by the existence of the German Jews to their opponents. From around 1860, the term was used with an increasingly anti-Semitic tendency. The Jews were described under this term as a stumbling block to identity and cohesion of German nation and as his enemies within the Germans' own country. Anti-Semitism such as Wilhelm Marr, Carl Eugen, Theodor Houston, Stewart, Paul Day and others declared it a racial problem insoluble through integration. They stress this in order to strengthen their demands to de-deify the press, education, culture, state and economy. They also proposed to condemn intermarriage between Jews and non-Jews. They used this term to exile the Jews from their supposedly socially dominant positions. The most infamous use of this expression was used by Nazis in the early and mid-20th century. They implemented what they called their final solution to the Jewish question through their Holocaust during the World War II. When they attempted to exterminate Jews in Europe, the Nazis' final solution. In Germany, the term Jewish question in German Judenfrage referred to the belief that the existence of Jews in Germany posed a problem for the state. In 1933, two Nazi theorists, Johann von Leers and G. Achim, both proposed the idea that the Jewish question could be solved by resettling Jews in Madagascar or somewhere also in Africa or South America. They also discussed the pros and cons of supporting the German Zionists. Von Leers asserted that re-establishing a Jewish homeland in obligatory Palestine would create humanitarian and political problems for the region. Upon achieving power in 1933, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi state began to implement increasingly severe legislation that was aimed at segregating and ultimately removing Jews from Germany and eventually all of Europe. The next stage was the persecution of the Jews and the stripping of their citizenship through the 1935 Nuremberg laws, starting with the 1938 K pogrom and later during World War II. It became state-sponsored internment in concentration camps. Finally, the government implemented the systematic extermination of the Jewish people, the Holocaust, which took place as the so-called final solution to the Jewish question. Now let us see, my dear students, historical context and influence. To understand Marx on the Jewish question, it is crucial to consider the historical context in which he wrote it. The early 19th century was a period of significant social, political and economic change in Europe, characterized by the rise of industrial capitalism, nationalism and liberalism. Additionally, the status and rights of Jews. Marx's works, including on the Jewish question, were influenced by the ideas of the Enlightenment, Hegelian philosophy and Foucault's critics of religion. Moreover, his engagement with Jewish issues was also shaped by his own Jewish background and experience. On the Jewish question of Karl Marx. On the Jewish question is a response by Karl Marx to then current debates over the Jewish question. Marx wrote the plays in 1843 and it was first published in Paris in 1844 under the German title Zur Judenbrücke. Karl Marx replied to Bruno in his 1844 essay on the Jewish question. Marx denied Bauer's view that the nature of Jewish religion prevented assimilation by Jews. Instead, Marx attacked Bruno's very formulation of the Jewish form. Can the Jewish become politically emancipated, as fundamentally masking the nature of political emancipation itself? Marx used Bruno's essay as an occasion for his own analysis of the liberal rights. Marx argued that the Bruno Bauer was mistaken in this assumption that in a secular state, religion would also no longer play a prominent role in social life. As an example, he referred to the pervasiveness of religion in the United States, which, unlike Prussia, had no state religion. In Marx's analysis, the secular state was not opposed to religion, but rather assumed it. The removal of religious or property qualifications for citizenships did not mean the abolition of religion or property, but rather naturalized both, introduced a way of regarding individuals in abstraction from them. On this note, Marx moved beyond the question of religious freedom to this real concern with the Bauer's analysis of political emancipation. Marx concluded that while individuals can be politically free in a secular state, they were still bound to material constraints on freedom by economic inequality, an assumption that would later form the basis of his critics of capitalism. The essay criticized Marx's fellow young Hegelian Bruno Bauer on the attempt by Jews to achieve political emancipation in Prussia. Bauer argued that Jews could achieve political emancipation only by relinquishing their particular religious consciousness. Since political emancipation requires a secular state, which he assumes that it does not leave any space for social identities such as religion. According to the Bauers, such a religious dominance or demands are incompatible with the ideas of the rights of man. True political emancipation for Bauers requires the abolition of religion. Marx uses Bauer's essay as an occasion for analysis liberal rights, arguing that Bauer is mistaken in his assumption that in a secular state, religion will no longer play a prominent role in social life, and giving as an example the pervasiveness of religion in the United States, which, unlike Prussia, had no state religion. In Marx's analysis, the secular state is not opposed to religion, but rather actually presupposes it, the removal of religious or property qualifications. For citizens does not mean the abolition of religion or property, but only introduce a way of regarding individuals in abstraction from them. On this note, Marx moves beyond the question of religious freedom to his real concern with the Bauer's analysis of political emancipation. Marx concludes that while individuals can be spiritually and politically free in a secular state, they can still bound to material constraints on freedom by economic inequality, an assumption that would later form the basis of his critiques of capitalism. A number of scholars, commentators regard on the Jewish question, and in particular its second section, which addresses Bauer's work, the capacity of present day Jews and Christians to become free as anti-Semitic. However, the number of others disagree. Now let us see the synopsis content. In Marx's view, Bauer fails to distinguish between political emancipation and human emancipation. As noted above, political emancipation in a modern state does not require Jews or Christians to renounce religion. Only complete the human emancipation would involve the disappearance of religion, but that is not yet possible within the hitherto existing world order. The second part of the essay, Marx disputes Bauer's theological analysis of Judaism and its relation to Christianity. Bauer states that the renouncing religion would be also especially difficult for Jews. In Bauer's view, Judaism was a primitive stage in the development of Christianity. Hence, to achieve the freedom by renouncing religion, Christians would have to surmount only one stage, whereas Jews would need to surmount two. In response to this, Marx argues that the Jewish religion does not have the significance Bauer's analysis attributes, because it is merely a spiritual reflection of Jewish economic life. This is the starting point of a complex and somewhat metaphorical argument that draws on the stereotype of Jews as a financially apt huckster and pose the special connection between Judaism as a religion and the economy of contemporary bourgeoisie society. Thus, the Jewish religion does not need to disappear in society, as Bauer argues, because it is actually a natural part of it, having thus figuratively equated practical Judaism with huckstering and money. Marx concludes that the Christians have become Jewish, and ultimately it is mankind, both Christians and the Jews, that needs to emancipate itself from a practical Judaism. The main topics addressed in Karl Marx's essay on the Jewish questions include the Jewish emancipation. Marx examines the questions of Jewish emancipation and critiques the idea of granting Jews equal rights within an unjust social order. He argues that true emancipation requires the eradication of the broader social economic conditions that perpetuate inequality. Secondly, religion and politics. Marx explores the relationship between religion and politics. In the context of the Jewish question, he advocates for separation of religion from the state and the adoption of a secular stance, providing equal treatment to individuals of all religious backgrounds. Thirdly, human emancipation. Marx frames the Jewish question as a particular manifestation of the broader struggle for human emancipation. He emphasizes the need to address the underlying social economic structures that breed oppressions, and argues that emancipation of Jews requires the emancipation of society as a whole. Fourthly, political emancipation. It is merely grants civil rights without addressing broader socio-economic disparities remains insufficient. Marx contends that Jews should strive for human emancipation rather than Jewish emancipation alone. Ethnic identities to achieve a universal human identity, Marx suggests that political liberalism perpetuates the fragmentation of a society by emphasizing particular identities, including Jewish identity, rather than focusing on the broader struggle for human liberation. Anti-Semitism. Marx acknowledged the existence of anti-Semitic sentiments prevalent in his time, but argues that anti-Semitism is a consequence rather than the root cause of the problem. He contends that it stems from the social and economic contradictions within the capitalist societies, highlighting the importance of addressing the underlying material conditions. Critics of religion. Marx offers a critique of religion as a ideological tool used by the ruling class to maintain dominance and perpetuate social inequality. He argues for the separation of religion from the state to achieve true emancipation. The nature of rights. Marx challenges the notion of rights and argues that equal rights within the unjust social order are insufficient. He suggested the struggle for human emancipation should go beyond the framework of individual rights and focus on broader social transformation. These topics were interrelated and form the core of Marx's analysis on the Jewish question. His essays serves as a platform to address not only the specific issue of Jewish emancipation, of social justice, oppression, and the role of religion and politics in society. An in-depth analysis of Marx's essay by examining the historical context, the key arguments, and its significance in shaping subsequent debates on the Jewish question. To fully understand the significance of Marx's essay, it is crucial to examine the historical backdrop against which it was written. In the early 19th century, many European countries, including Germany, still under restrictive laws and policies that limited the rights and freedoms of Jewish citizens. While some European countries had made progress towards Jewish emancipation, there were lingering debates and prejudices surrounding the role of Jews in society. It is within the context that Marx's essays emerged. Marx begins his essay by acknowledging the significance of the Jewish question and the broader implication for the fight against religious, racial, and political oppression. He identifies the Jewish question as a particular manifestation of the broader struggle for human emancipation, highlighting the need to understand and address it in order to achieve true liberation. One of the central arguments Marx puts forth in the essay is that the emancipation of Jews requires the emancipation of society as a whole. He criticized the idea of granting Jews equal rights within unjust and oppressive social order, arguing that true emancipation necessitates the eradication of the social and economic conditions that perpetuate inequality for all individuals regardless of their religious or ethnic background. For Marx, Jewish question is not solely about the Jews, it is an entry point to critique the underlying social and economic structures that breed oppression. Marx further explores the relationship between religion and politics in the context of Jewish question. He contends that the separation of religion from the state is essential for achieving genuine emancipation, as the privileging of any particular religious group leads to the exclusion and marginalization of others. Marx argues that the state should adopt a secular stance, providing equal treatment and opportunities to individuals of all religious backgrounds. This position reflects Marx's broader critique of religion as an ideological tool used by the ruling class to maintain dominance and perpetuate social inequality. Critically, Marx also addresses the question of anti-Semitism and its relationship to the Jewish question. He acknowledges the existence of anti-Semitic sentiments prevalent in this time, but argues that anti-Semitism is a symptom rather than the root cause of the problem. Marx asserts that the anti-Semitism is a consequence of the broader social and economic contradictions within capitalist societies. By analyzing the socio-economic conditions that give rise to anti-Semitism, Marx emphasized the importance of addressing the underlying the solely focusing on compacting anti-Semitic attitudes. Marx's essay on the Jewish question sparked considerable debate and controversy in his time, and its influence has extended far beyond the 19th century. The essay laid the groundwork for subsequent discussions on Jewish question, both within the Marxist circles and beyond. Marx's analysis of the Jewish question as a microcosm of broader social struggles has resonated with the scholars, activists, and thinkers in diverse fields. His examination of the relationship between religion, politics and social emancipation remains relevant in contemporary discussions surrounding identity, equality and the challenges faced by the marginalized communities. Moreover, Marx's essays has been subject to numerous interpretations and critiques. Some argue that Marx's analysis falls short in addressing the complexities and specificities of the Jewish questions, while others comment his broader insights into the nature of oppression and the need for fundamental social transformation. The essay continues to stimulate intellectual engagement and the debate with the scholars offering diverse perspectives. Now let us see the challenges to the Jewish question by On the Jewish Question. In On the Jewish Question, Karl Marx challenged the conventional approaches to the Jewish question of his time and offered a unique perspective that went beyond mere religious or legal considerations. Here are some ways in which Karl Marx challenged the Jewish question throughout his essay. The emancipation beyond legal rights. Marx criticized the prevailing idea of granting Jews equal rights within an unjust social order. He argued that true emancipation required addressing the underlying social and economic conditions that perpetuated inequality for all individuals, regardless of the religious or ethnic background. By emphasizing the need for broader social transformation, Marx challenged the limited scope of discussions on Jewish emancipation. The critics of religion and politics. Marx questioned entanglement of religion and politics in the context of the Jewish question. He advocated for the separation of religion from the state and the adoption of a secular stance that provided equal treatment to individuals of all religious backgrounds. These critics challenged the prevailing notion of privileging of a particular religious groups and called for a more inclusive approach to politics. The relationship between Judaism and the human emancipation. Marx argued that the struggle for Jewish emancipation should be understood as part of the broader struggle for human emancipation. He highlighted the need to address the social and economic structures that breed oppression, not just for Jewish but for society as a whole. This perspective challenged the narrow focus on Jewish issues and encouraged a more comprehensive understanding of the interconnectedness of social struggle. Anti-Semitism as a symptom. Marx acknowledged the existence of anti-Semitic sentiments but argued that anti-Semitism was a consequence rather than the root cause of the problem. He contended that all Semitism emerged from the social and economic contradictions within the capitalist societies. By shifting the focus from combating anti-Semitism to addressing the underlying material conditions, Marx challenged the prevailing approaches that primarily targeted the symptoms rather than the root causes of oppressions. Critique of individual rights. Marx challenged the notion of individual rights as a sole of solution to the Jewish questions. He argued that equal rights within unjust social order were insufficient and emphasized the need for broader social transformation. Marx critics challenged the prevailing emphasis on legal and individual rights and called for a more radical approach to addressing social inequalities. Through these challenges, Marx offered a more comprehensive and critical analysis of the Jewish question. He situated it within the broader context of social, economic structures, critiques the entanglement of religion and politics and emphasized the need for fundamental social transformation rather than relying solely on legal or individual rights. Marx analysis sparked considerable debate, has had lasting impact on subsequent discussion regarding the Jewish question, the issues of social justice and emancipation. Now let us see the impact on the Jewish question on the society and Jews. The impact of Karl Marx's essays on the Jewish question on society and Jews has been multifactorial and has evolved over times. While the immediate reception was relatively limited, the essay's ideas and arguments have had a broader influence in shaping subsequent discussion on the Jewish questions. Here are some key aspects of its impact. Intellectual influence. Marx's essay has had a significant impact on intellectual and academic discussions surrounding the Jewish questions. It provided a critic analysis that went beyond the legal and religious dimensions of Jewish emancipation, challenging prevailing approaches and encouraging a broader emancipation of social economic conditions. Marx's ideas influenced subsequent Marxists and social thinkers, contributing to a ongoing debates on Jewish identity, anti-Semitism and the struggle for human rights. Political movements. Marx's essays contributed to the development of the socialist and communist movements, which often sought to address social and economic inequalities that affected Jews and other marginalized groups. It influenced activists and the thinkers within these movements who incorporated Marx's analysis into their discussion on Jewish liberalization and broader social transformation. The essay's emphasis on the need to address the underlying material conditions resonated with the socialist movements for calls for systematic change. Jewish identity and emancipation. Marx's essay sparked debates within the Jewish communities about the nature of Jewish identity, the role of religion in society and the pursuit of emancipation. Some Jews embraced Marx's critiques of religion and his call for secularization as part of the struggle for equal rights. Others, however, questioned the extent to which Marx's analysis adequately addressed the complexities of Jewish history, culture and identity. The essay's impact on Jewish communities varied with different functions, interpreting and responding to its arguments in different ways. Continuing debates. The essay's legacy continues to shape the discussion on the Jewish question and related issues. Marx's analysis of the relationship between religion, politics and social emancipation remains relevant in contemporary debates surrounding religions, freedom, secularization and challenges faced by the marginalized communities. The essay has inspired further research, analysis and critiques from scholars, philosophers and activists who have built upon the Marx ideas and expanded the discourse surrounding the Jewish questions. The limitation and critics. While Marx's essays has had a lasting impact, it has also faced criticism and some limitations. Some argue that Marx's analysis of the Jewish question was reductionist and failed to fully grasp the nuances and complexities of Jewish history and identity. Others contend that his focus on economic and material conditions overlooked the importance of cultural and religious factors in shaping Jewish experiences. Critics have been leveled at his underlying and understanding of the anti-Semitism, while some argue that his analysis did not adequately address the specific manifestation and historical context of the anti-Jewish prejudices. So far in this session, we have discussed the impact, the other idea of Bauhaus. So with that, we close this lecture. Thank you.